It's Bigfoot Collectors Club with Bryce and Michael. I know a ghost story or two. Let's do this.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Bigfoot Collectors Club, the show where we share personal paranormal histories with celebrity guests and tell tales of high strangeness. I'm your host, Michael McMillan. With me usually is your other host, Bryce Johnson, but this week Bryce is in Canada. He's defected against the United States in order to accept an acting job. So just as soon as we got the band back together, we've already lost a member, but that's okay because I have producer
Riley Bray
with me as always to back me up. And you know what? We have a guest that is worth one guest and a co-host today. You probably remember him as the role of Alcide Herveau on True Blood, a show that I also worked on. So he knows a thing or two about cryptids. He also starred in both Magic Mike movies, Rampage, and currently plays Deathstroke in the DC Comics movie universe. And he has a brand new heavy metal fantasy streetwear brand called Death Saves that I want to talk about as well. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Joe Manganiello. Yay! We were kind of harmonizing there for a minute. Hey, Joe.
We learned that together at the Carnegie Mellon School of Drama.
Yes, it's true.
Mike.
Where we were both straight theater actors, not MTs. That's short
not
for
MTs.
musical theater.
Yes.
Yeah, little known fact, Joe and I went to college together. So we've known each other now for, since the 90s.
Way back in the 90s, we took great pride in getting you drunk underage.
True. Well, underage, and then you took me out for my 21st birthday. But I had been drinking every night that week.
I'm ashamed that you remember it.
By the time we did it, I did not last long, and I remember the disappointment. You were looking at me so disappointed. You and Arik, our friend Arik, took me to a bar in Pittsburgh, where you're from.
Correct.
And it was like a bar with like 100 beers on tap or something.
Sharp Edge.
Sharp Edge.
Yeah.
Right, so tell me a little bit about Sharp Edge.
Yeah, it was just one of those places that had all those fancy Belgians that had like alcohol percentage levels with like X's or stars next to them.
They're
and
like, basically, if you're an American, do not attempt to drink this.
Yes, and so we took you there.
Yeah, perfect.
Do you remember? I remember. Man, now the memories are rushing back in. Do you remember there was a game we used to time you going to the bathroom?
Yes.
And it was like you would go in, hit the bathroom, come back, wash your hands, and it was like 5 seconds or 10 seconds. It was like an under 10.
I could pee very fast.
You could leave the booth of the restaurant, be in the bathroom, come back with wet, washed, soapy hands.
I did wash
and peed in the middle in like 8 seconds.
I always washed.
It was like
it was very, you're very easily entertained.
I totally am.
That's your superpower.
Yeah,
you know?
it was.
Found your Marvel power.
I know
there.
it's gotten a little slower as I've gotten older. I feel like, but you know what? I could rise to the occasion if needed.
That's where adult diapers come in.
Yeah, that's right. I just go in my pants now.
Half a second. And we're back.
And we're back. Oh, that was nice. I still need to go wash my hands, though. Joe, how are you, man? I haven't seen you for a while. It's great. It's great to have you on the show.
Thanks,
I've
man.
been you've been at the top of the list to get on this podcast since we started it late last year. You are a big fantasy sci-fi fan. I have actually one of my favorite memories from college is you and me setting up a loudspeaker system and the TV. This is back before we had flat screen TVs.
Oh man, or sound systems or surround sound in houses. Nothing.
We just were like, let's get 2 amps, hook it up to this television, and we watched Star Wars. We watched the Star Wars trilogy, like the old school original release on widescreen. So that was one of my favorite memories. That's how we bonded.
Through 4.5 foot high speakers.
Yeah.
That rumbled the house.
Yeah, we thought it was the greatest.
It was.
Joe lived in a house called, affectionately known as the Negley House.
631 South Negley Avenue.
Wow, I forgot. I remember, but I can't
mail
remember.
used to go there. So yeah, of course I remember. 631 South Negley in Pittsburgh, in the Shady Side area.
Yeah. Beautiful neighborhood.
Beautiful.
I lived on Ivy Street. I think Walnut and Ivy. 715 Walnut.
Did you live in what became like, or people called it the Ivy House? But there were a lot of civilians.
No, I
that
wasn't
lived
in
there.
that one. That was
okay.
the brick one next to Village Pizza.
Correct.
Do you remember Village Pizza?
Well, it used to be the Greenhouse Coffee when I was in high school.
Oh, wow.
When I was in high school, that's where the theater kids used to go and hang out and smoke cigarettes and drink coffee and listen to the Smiths.
Oh,
that
man.
was the spot.
That would have totally been my place.
Yeah.
Instead, I would go get like a 1/4 pizza
and
slice
a 40
of pizza.
of King Cobra.
Yeah, or just like I remember they had like a deal for like $2. You could get 2 giant slices of pizza that basically equaled a third of a pizza.
Yep.
And like a giant Pepsi, and that was my dinner for
college
like
kids.
4 nights a week.
Yeah.
Good times. Good
Yeah.
times. Great.
I was at the Elbow Room. This is like really deep cut Pittsburgh shit.
Elbow Room
and I know
was-
that I'm apologizing
No,
for
it's
it
okay.
right now, which I shouldn't.
We
but
have listeners in Pennsylvania, and they're going to be very excited.
Elbow
about
Room,
this.
Harris's on the patio when it got warm.
Harris's was the best.
Yep, you could get the hummus and pita. They served me when I was 16 years old in high school, so
Well, you also
Big ups
looked
to
like
them.
at least 25 when you were 16.
I could grow a little mustache.
Yeah, but you were tall,
Sure.
and you could beat up anybody you wanted to, I'm sure.
Like cops,
Yeah.
if they tried to get me in trouble for drinking underage. No, I have.
It was actually the cops who would buy you the beers.
Yeah, man, I was just their friend. They knew me. I would give them cigarettes. I worked for Camel.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot
was a
about that.
different time.
You were a Camel spokesman.
Yep.
You used to go around to bars and hand out free packs of cigarettes, I think.
Correct.
Wow, it really was a
God,
different
it was.
time.
You were a hookup.
That came on the heels of my job working for Finlandia Vodka, where I wore a tuxedo and drove around on a big giant, there was U2's old tour bus that was redone, full of Finlandia vodka with there were 2 spokesmodel women in evening gowns.
Yeah.
And they put us on this bus.
You got-
They drove us around for months to every major city in America. This was one of my summer jobs when I turned 21. And we went to every major city in America and just drank our faces
And
off.
pretended you were on a yacht or a gala.
Dude, I was so drunk. I don't even know where I was. But I was chain smoking Marlboro Reds at the time, and I had a lung infection. So I was hacking up this green
Also
phlegm.
known as lung cancer.
Sure. And so I had to leave. I was I was in such bad shape. I had to leave the Finlandia vodka tour.
Right.
And they dropped me off in the strip mall outside of Pittsburgh, and I got rid of the lung infection, then got that job working for Camel. But before that, that was preceded by, at age 16, a friend of mine called me who booked such crazy promotional jobs and said, hey, I'm in a real pinch. Somebody dropped out of a job tonight. Would you like to make $25 an hour? I'm 16 years old. I said, of course. What do I have to do? I said, just come down to our office, and whatever you do, if anybody asks, just say you're 21. I went, great. I said, Mom, can you give me a ride?
Like, wait a minute. I'm getting paid $25 an hour and I get to lie? Fantastic. This is a teenager's dream come true.
Mom, I need a ride. So, because I didn't have a license, I was 16 at the time. And so my mom dropped me off at their office. I went in, and there was a group of adults, and they said, oh, you're the guy. I went, mm-hmm. They said, how old are you? I said, 21. They said, great, put this on. And they handed me this elaborate pirate suit with the cape and the wig and the eye patch and the ruffles and the little booties that go over your shoes to make fake boots.
Oh, yeah.
And pantaloons. And I had a sword and a pistola. And I was going to go be Captain Morgan at a bunch of bars. I'm 16. So I put this thing on. They load me into this minivan. They said, here are your wenches. There were 2 hot college girls in little skimpy wench outfits.
Oh, my God.
And
You're like, I think I like being a businessman.
well, I'm like, we're all going to get arrested. And so we get to the first bar, and they pull out this huge tank with backpack straps on it, big tank. They put it on my back, and they just start dumping bottles of Captain Morgan. They fill this tank on my back up with rum. It was like a keg of rum with a...
Was it? I'm picturing a wooden, a fake wooden tank.
It was like plastic.
Okay, right. But is it in the shape of an actual barrel or rum barrel?
No, thinking about it
It's
now...
like a Ghostbusters
That's a real
pack?
design flaw. They should have...
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
It was more like a shitty proton pack.
Yeah, you're like, wait, I'm confused. Why does this pirate have a proton pack on his back?
Somebody saw a cockroach up on 20. Bite your head off, man. So they filled this thing up with rum, and it had a tap on it, like a tube. It had a tap. And they're like, go get everybody drunk and give everybody T-shirts. And so, the girls pulled me aside. They were like, let's drink this shit. So I went over in the corner and I'm squirting in their mouths. I'm squirting in mine. I'm getting hammered. And by like the third bar, I had that cheruby warm feeling in my cheeks.
Yeah.
I'm 16 years old.
Yeah.
And one of the bars had the cowboy doors.
Right.
At the front.
The old saloon style.
Yeah. And so I'm feeling good, man. I remember I kicked the cowboy doors in like, and all these adults looked back at me and I went, arg! And then the whole bar, arg! And it was on. I had everybody laying on the bar, squirting in their mouths like in a row and in mine. And I was, taking pictures over the stalls at the urinals of people peeing, and girls were like, what can I do for a t-shirt? I'm like, what are you going to do? And they're like, shh, and I'm taking pictures on Seagram's camera of all this debauchery, and I'm up on stage singing Marilyn Manson
Where
covers.
are these photo albums?
It was back in the day when nobody had cell phone cameras, so those were wild times, kids. Back in the Wild West.
We could shut that corporation down right now with this story.
So the next morning, my friend and I was so by the end of the night I was hammered, and they dropped me off on my mom's front lawn, like I had like half a costume left. I think I sold the knife and gun for cash. I stumbled in, 1 foot on the ground, on the floor, laying in bed to try to stop the spinning. And I woke up the next morning. My friend called me and said, "How'd the job go?" And I said, it went very well, I think." She's like, "Well, there's a big problem." I went, "Oh shit." I go, "What?" They go, "Seagram's loves you, and they don't want to do this promotion unless you're Captain Morgan. So we got to find you a fake ID so we can keep this account." So we got me an ID of a friend of mine who was 10 years older than me. He was 26 at the time. He gave me his ID, and I was Captain Morgan from age 16 through 21 in Pittsburgh.
Jesus Christ!
Little did you know.
I don't think I knew. I knew you did.
It was an alternate source of income while I was all those beers that I was buying you at the Elbow Room at half price pitcher night, they were being funded by Seagram's.
I remember you doing the God, dude, I can't imagine that. Did your mom ever catch on?
No, I think she was just like happy. I got this like nice job and they're
young
paying me
man,
money.
You're playing a character. You're getting your first acting job.
Yeah, this is great. This is good stuff.
Oh my God, I would have died. I would have absolutely died.
It was nuts. It was like those were some of the best times. There's a Polaroid somewhere of me with like the two Morganettes,
right,
and just hammered, like one eye closed,
full
like
pirate eye, yeah,
super huge, like $1 million smile, like just to have like. Yeah,
I'm surprised you don't have like at least 16 children around the tri-state area that you don't know about.
When True Blood happened, it was like there's a moment of pause. And then after about season 2, I exhaled.
You're like, oh yeah, no one's contacted me yet.
I think we're okay.
Oh my God, that is insane. Oh brother.
Yes, that's like you can make a movie out of that or something right there.
Yeah, it's called Leaving Las Vegas. They already made it.
Jeez.
It's just about a guy in AA recalling the good old days.
I feel like you could have sued Captain Morgan for all of this.
Oh, I give my friend who got me the job shit all the time.
You're like, it was great, but it kind of ruined my life for a minute.
I'm kind of, yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's amazing. So, Joe, I want to hear a little bit about death saves. What's going on with that now? Now, a lot of our listeners are obviously big fantasy fans as well.
Great.
And you described as heavy metal fantasy streetwear brand. Yep. I thought originally that it was a tabletop game because it's obviously got a lot of D&D inspiration behind it. Correct? Yes.
Sure.
No?
Sure. But I think. And that's good. That means we're doing our job. I have a licensing agreement with Dungeons and Dragons, so I have full access to their pantheon of creatures, characters.
Wow.
To do what I see fit
for the clothing line.
Yes.
Oh wow, that's so cool.
So they're on board, and we have some other collaborations that are in the works with some amazing classic pioneers and godfathers and godmothers of the fantasy genre, like classic, instantly recognizable.
Where does this come from? Why this?
Well, I'm a big fan of fantasy comic book. When I was a kid, I'll say this. I noticed that in today's world, the genre is fractured.
Okay, how so? What do you mean? How so?
I mean, there's genres, and then there's subgenres,
Right.
and then there's subgenres of subgenres, and on and on and on and on.
Right.
And when you go to
And
comic,
then at the bottom of that, you have Sonic the Hedgehog fans who are really into Sonic the Hedgehog.
and you've
Google
got
Sonic the
you got
Hedgehog.
bronies,
Yeah, exactly.
and yeah. So
Google Sonic the sidebars. Google Sonic the Hedgehog Jesus fan art. Get ready to have your mind blown.
are you serious?
I'll show you later. Yeah,
Whoa.
it's a lot of heavily Christian themed Sonic the Hedgehog art out there.
Do I need to go get a licensing agreement with
might-
them?
You might need
This
to.
sounds kind of amazing, actually.
Yeah.
I think this might be our next capsule release.
Check it out. I'll
For
show you after
Christmas time.
we stop.
So, you know, I looked around at Comic-Con, for example, and Avengers fans are over there. DC fans, if you like DC, well, you're over there.
Right.
If you like Lord of the Rings, you're over there. If you like Game of Thrones, you have to go over there. If you like comic books, like, you're not even invited to Comic-Con anymore.
It's kind of true.
Kind of true. And so everything's separated. And somewhere along the way when I was growing up, it became societally acceptable to make fun of people who were into fantasy.
Yeah, that was called the 80s
Right.
and the early 90s through the late 90s to the early 2000s.
Kind of like to like last year, sure. And then on top of that, you had the Satanic Panic, which started associating people like, you know, Ozzy Osbourne. I mean, of course, he started a band called Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
Well, but he's
I
being
get it.
tongue in cheek.
Sure. And, you know, if you look at, like, I mean, first of all, like, Ozzy didn't write the songs, but whoever was writing the songs for Ozzy and the things that he was singing about were about
Quincy Jones.
running, Niles Rodgers. It was about running away from the devil, getting away, you know, but somehow everything got lumped into this category. You have things like Paradise Lost. You've got the West Memphis Three,
Yeah.
where kids who dress in black and listen to Metallica and grow their hair long, well, you have to be the murderers.
Yeah.
And there's no due diligence done. They're just locking kids away. And, you know, there was a very shameful 60 Minutes interview with Ed Bradley where he was basically coercing parents into saying that their children committed suicide and murders because of Dungeons and Dragons,
Right.
which was so absurd.
Yeah.
And so what happened was it further created this divide, this chasm between the heavy metal aesthetic of, say, a Frank Frazetta and, you know, in modern fantasy. It split at that point. And
Right.
what happened was it then became easy for bullies to pick on people who like this type of stuff because it was nerdy and dorky, and you're a dork because you like this.
Right.
Where before, everybody who played Dungeons and Dragons listened to Metallica, had an Iron Maiden shirt, had a glow-in-the-dark Led Zeppelin poster, read Stephen King, hung out at the arcade, hung out at the comic book store. All of a sudden, it was like the fantasy nerds had to go away because
you mean
of this.
split from heavy
Split.
metal.
They got left from heavy metal and kind of got left behind from the rest of comic book culture, let's call
Right.
it, you know? And so what happened was if you brought it up, you got into a fist fight, you know, or it wasn't cool. It was...
And where were you in this? Where did you kind of...
Well, so I also had this other train running on a parallel track, which was athletics. So what happened was I just didn't.
I said you become a bully, but let's...
Why? Because I played one in Spider-Man. How dare you? No, I was the one. So what happened is this: I stopped talking about it.
Right.
I played tabletop role-playing games and read fantasy novels in secret. I didn't tell people about it. You know, I knew the kids that did, and I had two groups of friends. I had those kids that I hung out with and did that type of stuff with. But then Friday night I would go to the keg party with the jocks.
Right.
But what happened was the jocks would then pick on my friends who were into fantasy, and then I would have to threaten to beat up the jocks if they
Right.
threatened to beat up my fantasy friends. So it was like a weird...
You're like living a Clark Kent and Superman sort of double life.
And at some point, you just put it down.
You're like a nerd trapped in a jock's body.
I am a nerd driving a Jaeger that I spent 30 years in the gym trying to build.
Right. Yeah,
I saw
yeah.
Conan and was like, okay, that's it. I'm going to the
Totally.
gym now.
Which is like a very nerdy thing to do, to be like, Conan's, I want to be like, I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I want
saw
to
him.
be the guy in X-Men comics. I
Yeah.
want to be built like that.
Yeah.
That was my dream.
Yeah.
And so what happens is, I put it down for about 20 years. And I was doing Streetcar
Right.
at
on
Yale.
stage.
At
yeah.
Yale. I was third time doing Streetcar at Yale, which is in Connecticut. And one of my fantasy nerd friends was a school teacher there and had kids and a wife, and he lived in Connecticut. And I said, "Hey, man, how far are you from New Haven? Like, let's get dinner. You should come see the show. I'll get you tickets." He said, "Listen, man, that's all great, but you're not going to believe this. We started playing again.
Yeah.
You got to make a character, and you got to come over and play with us. It'll blow your mind. It's amazing. It was that good."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh man, okay." So I made a character. I got done with rehearsal.
You went to your garage. You got the jackhammer. You dug up the concrete. You pulled out your 20-sided dice that you buried there.
Well, first I ran to the toilet and vomited.
Yeah.
For being reminded
Right.
of this dark period of my history. Like it was real. It's like an It. It's like
Yeah.
the kids in It.
Yeah,
I drew
yeah.
a warm bath.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I can't go back.
Yeah.
And so one day, Friday after rehearsal, I rented a car, made a character, and drove halfway across the state. And I started playing tabletop again, and it woke back up.
Right.
And so I just from there it was like, I mean, it was, I don't know, it was like it was like my first love, like being creative in that way, drawing, painting, creating characters, writing long form narrative stories. And I realized in that moment that I had chosen a career as an artist that was exactly what I did as a kid with tabletop gaming.
Totally.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it was like all of a sudden all the dots just connected for me, and I realized, oh my God, like I need to keep doing this.
Yeah, you literally played like a lichen on a TV
Well,
show.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, funny
Like-
story. I was at my 15-year high school reunion, and I bumped into the guy who introduced me to the Dragonlance novels and the in second edition Dungeons and Dragons. And immediately, "Oh, dude, you remember that adventure? You remember that time when we this? And remember that?" And his wife comes walking over and rolls her eyes and says, "Ugh, are you talking about that stupid game again?" It's like, man, what is your problem?
Yeah.
And why is it so socially acceptable to shit on this thing that obviously gives your husband and his friend from high school like such great memories? I mean, it's like, I'm not shitting on Barbie or something.
Right.
Like, why you're a mean person. Why would you do that?
Right.
And so eventually it's a reunion. So it gets to the conversation of, "Oh, well, what do you do?" And she didn't know who I was. She didn't know what I did. And it was awesome because she goes, "Oh, what do you do?" And I said, "That stupid game. I do that for a living now." And she
Right.
went, "What?" And I said, "Yeah, I play a guy who transforms into a wolf on a show about fairies and vampires. It's the #1 show on cable." And my friend like spit his drink onto the floor laughing.
That's awesome.
Yes, there's a stigma
different.
behind it that it is really kind of weird that it still has this stigma of being like, oh, that nerdy thing. Meanwhile, like Guardians of the Galaxy is the #1 box office, movie at the box office that summer. It's like
Lord of the
like
Rings
Marvel,
won 17 Oscars and
Yeah.
made over $3 billion. Game of Thrones destroys
Dude.
every award show, and rightfully so.
And it's like it's the peak form of one of the nerdiest, quote unquote, nerdiest genres ever.
Sure. And so what happened, those instances made me realize, you know what? We're past it. And furthermore, if I start talking publicly about my love for this genre and these types of projects and books and things, like, what's somebody going to say to me at this point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big Dick Richie from Magic,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
watch out. Don't play Dungeons and Dragons. You're going to wind up like that guy. Well, okay, what's wrong with my life?
Right.
So,
Exactly.
I did not kill everyone's cat in the neighborhood.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
all,
yeah, yeah.
we're over it.
Yeah.
So I became very good friends with Dungeons and Dragons, and in fact, I wrote part of their new adventure module for next year.
Oh, rad.
Wow.
Dude,
Crazy.
that's awesome.
Oh, crazy. Crazy. And
What's that? Can you?
I can't really
plug it yet?
elaborate
Okay.
on it, but it's amazing.
Awesome.
It's
Okay, cool.
so bad. It's like the most badass, like, evil
When can listeners
module ever.
like look for it?
Well, it'll be in the throes of coming out next year around this time. Probably
Okay.
next year, early June.
Okay.
The announcements will start coming out. Which was a dream of mine as a kid. I work as a consultant for Dungeons and Dragons now, and through that process, I said to them, I want to make some cool things to wear.
Right.
Because I look around and fantasy's still kind of corny and lacks taste.
Mm-hmm.
And I also grew up in a time where people like Frank Frazetta,
Yeah, who's one of my all-time favorite
Ralph
illustrators.
Bakshi,
Mm-hmm.
Errol Otis,
Mhm.
Larry Elmore, Jeff Easley, Clyde Caldwell, the old Dungeons and Dragons artists were cranking out the most badass, heavy metal looking pieces of artwork I'd ever seen. It blew my mind.
It sucks, doesn't it, how like clip art and Photoshop has now kind of like totally pushed that stuff aside.
Well,
in a lot of ways.
it does, but
Like fantasy novel covers aren't nearly as cool as they used to be.
So here's what I did. I started hiring all those people.
Oh, wow.
To do original art and to also repurpose their old art laying around. And I started going out to heavy metal album artists who are kind of hanging out and without commission jobs. And I started paying them to create original works of art, like the ones on the back of the jacket I just brought you. And so I started building this library in order to start making art prints, posters for sale, iPhone covers, and windbreakers and T-shirts that are heavy metal, man, like badass. Even if you're not into D&D, you want to wear this stuff because it's just the coolest.
This is like some badass skeleton Knights King sitting on a throne of skulls.
Yeah, it's Conan the King on a throne of skulls.
So funny when you said that you wanted to be Conan when you grew up. I remember after seeing Twins, I think it was. I remember saying to my dad, I was like, when I grow up, I want to get a lot of muscles. Like I was like, I'm gonna work out, get a lot of muscles like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then I'll just stop. And he's like, no, that's not the way it works. And I was like, wait, I have to do it all the time? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, forget it. Cut to me right now. Just a soft, doughy man having a good time in Los Angeles. Sometimes it doesn't stick. I'm like, I'll wait for a radioactive spider to bite me. I'll be fine. Oh, my God. All right, we're going to take a really quick break. And when we come back, I want to talk to Joe about his personal paranormal history.
Ooh.
And we're back with Joe Manganiello. Joe, we know you were into fantasy and heavy metal as a kid. Did it ever cross over from the realm of fantasy into reality for you? What is your personal paranormal history?
Well, it's funny you asked that. There was an apartment complex that I lived in on Van Ness. This was shortly after I moved to LA.
Oh, here in LA?
Yeah.
Cool.
And it was right across the street from Paramount Studios.
I think we've heard of this building before, but go on. Bane Gibby might have lived in the one across from this.
It's painted really crazy now.
Okay, go on. We'll figure that out later.
And there were people in the building who all shared stories about strange and violent occurrences.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Like
in
domestic violence stuff or like telekinetic?
Like there were guys talking outside my window one night about seeing an apparition again.
Whoa.
And feeling like they were being choked in the middle of the night by a spectral hand. And there were like multiple stories, people telling these tales. And apparently the house, there was a shooting there. There were a bunch of killings there. It was a hanky-panky house. So back in the...
Never has hanky-panky sounded scary. Creepier. It always sounds a little creepy. But it never sounds scarier.
That's a perfect sound effect for...
Whoa.
Sorry about that.
No, it was perfect. I should have just kept talking. So I guess there was an underground tunnel leading from Paramount to this house back in the day, before cell phones and beepers and pagers and things. They would have to keep track of their actors and artists.
Right.
So rather than lose someone to a bar or goes and drifts out and does drugs and goes AWOL, they had a house for all that stuff where they'd bring drugs
Totally.
or girls or boys or whatever you're into to the house, and you were there. But when you have that type of vice or underworld, the underworld comes with it. So there were like gangster shootouts apparently,
Whoa.
and supposedly these angry spirits were still haunting the halls of this
Wow.
building that then was turned into apartments.
Was there any evidence that you ever saw of the tunnel that would lead to, like, is there like a boarded up or like walled up?
I didn't go looking for it,
Right.
but
Oh man, I would have been
there. I just no man.
Yeah.
I was too. I don't want to
Yeah.
mess with all this. But there were weird things that happened in that building that
Whoa.
you couldn't explain. The types of things that like, the hair on the back of your neck, like something had happened, and you would like you would feel something.
Some bad energy.
Yeah,
there.
bad stuff going on.
What about the Negley house where you lived in college? Did you ever have anything there? Because I definitely
All good vibes, man.
Yeah, all good, man.
Yeah.
Because at Ivy, our place that I used to live with, I lived in with our friends Jamie and Ingrid and Roberta.
Yeah.
Like that building was for sure haunted.
Really?
Oh yeah, I woke up feeling hands on my back one night. Jamie, my roommate, and his girlfriend one night heard voices speaking out loud in the living room. I was in the shower one time. I heard the back door open and close and footsteps come in so naturally that I thought it was Jamie coming in from class, home from class. And I was like, "What's up, dude?" Walked out. No answer. Hello. No answer. Walked out. Nobody there, and the deadbolt in the back door was locked. So and the chain was on. So there was like no way anyone like got. And then I remember Jamie came back from class. I was like, "Did you stop by?" He's like, "No, it was a rehearsal." So there was definitely like weird. So I wondered if you coming into today, I was like, I wonder if Joe ever experienced anything creepy in Pittsburgh.
Not in Pittsburgh, man.
Yeah.
No, nothing.
Weird.
Other
Ugh.
than the Immaculate Reception, which
Yeah.
which was a good,
Yeah.
something good that happened.
Do you remember growing up if there were any folklore, any folk tales of monsters or creatures? And I know for one in Pennsylvania, they say that thunderbirds are seen often, giant black birds that are big enough to, that their wingspans cover, 15, 20 feet. That's like a big, that's a Native American symbol as well. But
Wow.
That's how the thunderbirds are reported and like sometimes people think they see pterodactyls flying around in Pennsylvania. Yeah. Do you remember? Was there any like boogeyman that you remember growing up or?
Growing up, boogeyman. There was I think this was after I was grown up and gone, but there was a serial killer that went through.
Oh, this is like a
Pittsburgh at
real
one point.
serial killer.
Yeah,
Whoa.
yeah.
Which one was this?
Oh God, I think he attacked people with a hammer.
Right.
And his name was shoot, I forget the name. I forget his name. I'd have to
It's
look
okay.
it up. But
We're not a true crime podcast, so it's fine. But
other than that, growing up as a kid, I don't know. I mean, I was always like, this had nothing to do with Pittsburgh, but there was I went to St. Bernard's Elementary School, and we had one book about the Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah.
And I would always check it out. Like
Yeah.
I would bring it back on time and then check it right back out.
totally.
So I had,
and here I go.
yeah, I did very above board, but so I was super into that. I was super into what was the old Leonard Nimoy show?
Oh, In Search Of.
In Search Of.
Yeah.
Oh man, I loved In Search Of.
So where did you as a kid did you believe as a kid?
I wanted to.
Yeah.
There was a movie called Baby that came out.
Oh, I
that
remember
maybe
Baby.
there was a brontosaurus in
Yeah.
like the Congo.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to believe that was true.
I experienced one of my first erections while watching Baby.
Wow, we need to get into the details of that.
There was a scene where the lead actress, I forget who it is, like
I was
gets
trying to
down
put that
like
together,
she
yeah.
goes into the river and she's like in her bra, and I remember being like, my
Oh.
penis is standing up. What's happening?
So not dinosaur related.
No, or baby related.
And now there's a dinosaur, and it's not going down.
Yeah, wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
It's only becoming more engorged. How do I know this word?
So many questions.
There's hair growing in places.
It's
Hey,
a
this movie's
it's a magical
great.
Time.
My voice is changing. I remember Baby. Yeah, that Baby's. What happened to Baby? That's like a movie that I have. Have you watched? Does it hold? It must not hold up because
how
it's
could
never.
how could it possibly?
No, this is like in the like everyone's trying to make another ET.
Sure, but do you remember like the old, like monster attack movies, like Fruit of the Gods?
No.
It was where the animals will grow gigantic and take over
I don't think I've ever seen this.
giant rats and things like that,
cool.
or like trolls.
Yeah.
Those weird old creature movies. There was
Yeah.
one movie called The Loch Ness Horror, which was about people being attacked
So you're
by a
watching
Loch
like
Ness monster.
a lot of B movie stuff. Yeah,
I was
yeah.
all about crummy
creature
features. I loved who's the giant turtle that fought Godzilla.
Oh,
Or,
boy,
you know what
I'm
I'm
gonna get
talking
yelled
about?
at. I know exactly who you're talking about, and I'm gonna get yelled at because I can't remember.
So I loved him. He was great. And all the old Godzilla movies. I loved all the Universal black and white horror movies. I was into anything with a monster in it who was preferably misunderstood.
Right.
And
That's
I
right.
right.
The monster.
And all the
Harry.
my favorite is all the Harryhausen stuff too, like
Oh, yeah.
Sinbad and Clash of the Titans, all that
Stop
stuff.
motion, anything. I loved, like Rankin Bass Hobbit was.
That was. The best.
I always refer to that as the gateway drug for me. And
I watched that movie repeatedly,
so
over
good.
and over and over and over again.
So good.
Who fought Godzilla?
DJ Z Trip, who DJ'd my wedding, who started mashups basically. I got him to DJ our Comic-Con Death Saves launch party, and
It's funny I didn't get an invite to that.
I don't think I didn't know you were down there until after. You could.
I'm totally teasing.
Yeah. He took a bunch of the Rankin Bass 70s Hobbit songs and made b-boy versions out of them.
Oh, hell yeah.
And he made a death metal goblin song.
Yes.
He
I just remember there was that Hobbit started off with, like someone singing like this.
greatest adventure is what lies ahead. Yeah.
Wait, can anyone hear these mashups? I want to
So
hear
if you
that.
go on
That
my
sounds
Instagram
awesome.
page, there's some of those videos that are up, like little clips,
Yeah.
and he's actually working on the album.
Oh, cool.
We're gonna
So he's
drop
put it out.
the fantasy metal album as mixed by Z Trip.
Oh,
It
dude.
is forthcoming, and we're gonna do some Death Saves album art for it and launch it properly. But he had this song. I mean,
That sounds awesome.
it was insane. He has this one. It was he's mixed master of puppets. He made a song called Dungeon Master,
Oh wow! Oh,
where he was cutting and scratching in and out of Master of Puppets,
yeah.
sampling, where it was like Dungeon Master, Master Dungeon Master. It's amazing. So look for that at sometime soon.
All right, great. It sounds like you have a lot of exciting things coming out, Joe.
Just being passionate,
Yeah.
you know.
All right. Before we move on to this week's Tale of High Strangeness, we're going to test and see what you believe in and what you don't. Guessing, I don't know. We'll find out. This is a game that we call Bullshit or Believe It. It's fast. It's a rapid fire question.
Okay.
I'm scanning through my phone to find it because, here we go.
Bullshit or
All right.
believe it.
So you just say bullshit or believe it. And if there's any you want to go back to after we run through them, we'll talk about them.
Okay.
All right, you ready?
Okay.
On your mark.
Yep.
Get set. Ghosts.
Believe it.
UFOs.
Bullshit.
Bigfoot.
Are you gonna get offended if I
No,
say
no offense.
if I say bullshit?
No offense.
Okay, bullshit.
Angels.
Oh man, angels. Oh no. Well, okay, I believe it, but
Okay,
that's
we'll come back.
Yeah, okay.
Gnomes.
Sorry, Scandinavia bullshit.
JFK assassination conspiracy.
Oh, believe it.
Fairies.
Other than Anna Paquin bullshit.
Unicorns.
Bullshit.
Loch Ness monster.
Bullshit.
Alien greys.
Alien
Greys. Like, the ones with the big black eyes and the skinny gray bodies, big heads.
It's bullshit.
Parallel universes.
Believe it.
Reptilians disguising themselves as humans.
Ooh, like V?
Yes.
Bullshit.
Exactly.
Back
like
to the
it.
alien thing.
Mermaids.
Bullshit. But I love that John Patrick Shanley one act play. It's
There you go.
beautiful. Anyway.
Heaven.
Oh man. I think that it exists on Earth.
Hell.
It exists on Earth.
Dragons.
In my mind.
The greatest adventure. Yeti.
Yeti is bullshit.
Elves.
Keebler. Yes.
ESP.
I believe it. Carl Jung. Yeah, I believe it.
Chupacabra.
Bullshit.
Demons.
Oh man. like angry souls, trap, wandering energy.
However you define it.
Believe it. Yeah.
Atlantis.
Bullshit.
Life on other planets.
Well, no, actually, it was somewhere. I just don't think it was definitely some island in the Mediterranean, and they thought, "Oh, this is Atlantis."
You just don't think it's like a sci-fi fantasy realm.
And now it's like Mykonos.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah,
the house. It's like the home of progressive trance music.
Got it.
Yeah, that's it.
Life on other planets.
Life on other planets mathematically has to be possible.
World peace.
Never.
Bullshit.
Unless. No, it's like with great power. Someone has to take it over and scare everyone into being peaceful.
Okay, now you're getting Machiavellian.
It's true.
You know, it didn't work for Darth Vader.
He was almost there.
All right, great job. We have a couple I want to go back to. Angels, you were like,
I think that energy goes somewhere.
Yeah.
I think it does, and yeah, I think it floats around.
okay.
I don't know if it's sentient, but
Right.
I think that there are energy floating
There's like
around.
good, powerful light energy.
Yeah, and I want to believe that. I mean, not to say that there's an afterlife, but I think you die and there is some form of information that goes somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think potentially, I would not be surprised if that energy got trapped in this plane or didn't, make it
Okay.
onto somewhere else.
Cool.
I've seen too many weird things happen.
Okay.
Synchronicity and such
Yeah.
that I just don't know how to explain that. Carl Jung didn't know how to explain
Yeah,
that.
synchronicity is like a big thing that recurs, I think, in everybody's life.
Yeah.
But I've definitely had really strong moments.
I don't know
of
that it
it.
has to do with angels, but yeah.
No,
but
right,
I think
but-
there's something to the energy thing.
There's some I like that there's a sort of a living information system that might
Otherwise,
interact with
it's the
us.
only way I can make any kind of sense of what we're doing right
Okay,
now.
cool. I like it. So UFOs, like you believe on life on other planets? You think there's no way in hell that they're visiting?
I met a guy I did an autograph signing in
Boy,
Northampton.
I love stories that start with "I met a guy."
in Northampton, England, years ago,
Yeah.
and there was a guy who ran these conventions, autograph signings, and one of his huge things, one of his big passions was meeting every single person that had ever been in outer space, and he set up autograph signings where you can go and meet every astronaut, like in
Right.
signings. Buzz Aldrin is going to sign an autograph. He boasted to have met like every single person that had been to outer space except for one or two.
Mm-hmm.
And like Yuri Gagarin was not the first man in space; he was the second.
Mm-hmm.
The first one actually burnt up on re-entry,
Yeah,
and the
probably.
Russians were like, "Hide this and send the second guy up." Yuri,
course.
you're up,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he was the guy who made it. So like he had insider baseball facts like that,
Right.
and so I said, "We've talked to all these guys. Have UFOs? Do they exist?" He said, "Yeah, mathematically, we're pretty. There has to be life out there, but through everyone I've talked to, I am almost certain, without a doubt, they have not visited our planet."
Okay. So
And that's coming from
right.
space travelers and astronauts.
So do you think that a lot of like these, strange, because we've had people on the show that have seen weird craft like up close. Do you think that that's probably man-made stuff here, Black Ops?
I would assume so.
Right.
I would assume. I would think.
What about time travelers from the future?
Somebody's going to figure it out someday. I think if the math supports it,
Right.
then wouldn't it?
Right.
Wouldn't it be?
So maybe that. Would you be open to that idea?
I'm open to it.
Okay, cool. All right, we're getting somewhere. All
Just
right.
trying to crack the door back open there.
I'm
Yeah.
open to that.
Yeah.
I'm open to that.
When we come back from this break, I'm going to tell a story that it's going to push the limits of what Joe will remain open to. Stay with us. We'll be right back. And we're back with Joe Manganiello. And of course, the giant turtle who fought Godzilla was indeed.
Gamera.
That's right. Sorry about that. Nerds. Okay.
Nerd.
Take it all back. Nerd talk with Joe and Mike. Okay, so
Oh, yeah.
oh, there you go. Brother.
Let me tell you something, yeah.
You do.
Need
You're a
a
big.
little excitement.
That's a really good Macho Man, dude.
Thanks. That's a dream role for me.
Oh, if I could, I would greenlight it right now. You'd be fucking perfect for it.
Savage. The Randy Poffo story.
God, that'd be so good, guys. Hollywood, I know you're listening. Let's make
the
this
cream of the
movie.
crop.
All right. So knowing that you were going to be our guest, I
Yes.
started researching Pennsylvania. I saw some Thunderbird stuff, but then I got off onto sort of a cryptid rabbit hole that led me to your neighboring state of Ohio,
Oh, boy.
which is known to be the home of the fabled Loveland Frogman.
What?
Have you ever heard of the Loveland Frogman?
The Loveland Frogman?
Yes, we've mentioned the entities known as frogmen briefly on a previous episode with Paul F. Tompkins when we discussed the Kelly Hopkinsville goblins. But we're going to get to the backstory
Clearly,
behind...
Alan Ball and the writer's room of True Blood have not heard of the Frogman either,
Yeah.
or it would have been the main villain in
I know.
season 2.
I was going to say, wait a minute, I could have played the frogman. All right, so our story begins on a fateful night in early August 2016.
Ooh, not that long ago.
A strange frenzy involving monster hunting was taking over the country that summer. One that had up to that point caused 4 deaths and multiple injuries. At least 12 more people would go on to die as a result of this fevered quest, and the injury count would rise to 55 before 2017 ended. The strange monster hunt, of course, was Pokemon Go. While some have predicted that accidents and fatalities that an addictive iPhone app could cause, no one could have foreseen that Pokemon Go, a game that encourages players to hunt and collect virtual monsters through augmented reality, might lead to the discovery of a real legendary monster, the Loveland Frogman. On Wednesday, August 3rd, 2016, teenager Sam Jacobs and his girlfriend were playing Pokemon Go on along Loveland Madeira Road in Ohio. Their hunt led them down to the banks of Lake Isabella, where they encountered a strange creature that would not be out of place in Viridian City with the likes of Pikachu and Snorlax. According to Sam Jacobs, he says, "We saw a huge frog near the water. Not in the game. This was an actual giant frog. Then the thing stood up and walked on its hind legs. I realize this sounds crazy, but I swear on my grandmother's grave, this is the truth. I'm not sure if it was a frogman or just a giant frog. Either way, I've never seen anything like it." Jacobs fired off a few photos and grabbed a video. In the captured images, you can see a greenish-looking figure in the lake with glowing yellow eyes. The video, however, is so dark that you can only make out the alleged pair of eyes wobbling in the dark. But here, for Joe to witness, is an image that he captured on his phone of the Loveland Frogman sitting in the water.
Oh my God. It's a slee stack.
It's totally asleep. You are not far off.
It's Enoch.
It's Enoch, the slee stack. Now, the teens ran home in excitement, apparently unaware of the legendary monster that was said to haunt the riverbanks of Loveland for years. It wasn't until their parents told them the story of the frog monster that they discovered they may have captured their hometown's most legendary folklore figure on camera. The first alleged sighting of the Frogman took place in May of 1958.
Whoa.
Or 1955. There's conflicting reports.
Okay.
And not only involved one frog monster, just debate about the year, not whether or not the frog monster
I think I know where you're going with this.
All right.
There once were 2 frog monsters. This could be the baby,
It
the
might
son
be-
of the original frog
Son of
man.
frog monster. Yeah, not only 2, Joe, there were 3.
What?
Now, the story goes, and there are a few variations, but basically, an unnamed businessman who did not want credit for this story was traveling down a country road alongside the
He
little...
did not want to be associated with Pokemon Go.
Hey, yeah, no, this goes... It hadn't even been invented yet.
Do not associate me with that crazy game.
He didn't want to be associated with the Frogman side.
This is about frogmen.
You thought it was hard
no.
for you in the 80s when you liked to play Dungeons and Dragons? Imagine if you were a 1950s businessman who saw 3 frogmen on the side of the road.
I picture like 6 months later, this guy is like Dennis Hopper's character in Hoosiers.
Yes, that's exactly.
He's just drinking himself to death in this cabin.
Yeah.
Because of what he saw.
And then he becomes Dennis Hopper's character in Easy Rider.
And then at 70 years old, it's like Cocoon. He just wanders into the water and is like, please
Yeah.
take me.
Yeah. Well, listen to what happened to him. Great segue, Michael. He was traveling down a country road alongside the Little Miami River in Loveland, Ohio, at 3:30 a.m., which should be noted is the hour of high strangeness. A lot of weird stuff happens.
Normal time to be out.
Yeah, a businessman in rural Ohio.
It's totally normal.
Just doing business stuff.
Just not murdering people at all.
No.
Not going town to town with a bag of hammers and just killing people.
And what exactly is your business, sir?
I sell hammers. He spotted 3 4-foot-tall creatures with green, leathery skin and webbed feet congregating on the side of the road. They stood on 2 legs, and their heads were notably frog-like, with deep wrinkles running along the tops of their heads where their hair should be. The man pulled over, the businessman, I should say, let's show him some respect.
He did a little DMT before getting out of his...
Yeah. He took a huge, sweet hit of DMT.
That he, funny enough, milked from the armpits of a hallucinogenic toad that he farmed in his cabin in the woods.
Yes, which he was now selling across the country. He pulls over and he watched a group of amphibious humanoids for 3 minutes until one of the frogmen produced what looked like a long, cylindrical tube or wand that shot sparks into the air. The man drove off, and word of the Loveland Frogman started to spread. Now, it would be almost 2 decades later until the frog monster was seen again. On March 3rd, 1972, police officer Ray Shockey was driving down an icy road when a creature darted across the street on 2 legs, illuminated in the headlights of the squad car. The officer came to a slippery halt and watched as the entity, described as a being 3 to 5 feet tall with features that looked like a frog or a lizard, stop and step over the guardrail and disappeared down the embankment to the Little Miami River.
No Roman candle this time.
No Roman candles.
Because when we were kids, you couldn't get illegal fireworks in Pennsylvania. You had to go across the border to Ohio to get Roman candles and dangerous fireworks, so this makes complete sense to me so far.
Well, you know how they became illegal.
The Frogman.
That night, the Frogman encountered the murderous businessman selling hammers.
Pennsylvania was smart. Because then that would keep the Frogmen from crossing the border. It would keep them in Ohio away from the people of Pittsburgh, which is why I never heard of any sort of strange occurrence where I grew up. They kept me safe.
They did. I think also the Thunderbirds, each time a frogman would cross the border, a Thunderbird would just swoop down, pick it up in his giant talons. So Officer Shockey, he went back to the station, grabbed fellow officer Mark Matthews, and they went back to investigate the spot where the frog monster had made his escape. They turned up scratch marks on the guardrail and on the hillside leading down to the water. Shockey's sister drew a picture of what the officer saw based on his descriptions. Now look at this cute little guy. He looks like a horny toad walking on 2 legs, headed towards a fence.
He does. He looks like the TCU horned frog.
Oh, you're right.
Right?
He looks like it was wasn't it Napoleon Bonafrog from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Yeah, there was like a mirrored
Yeah,
Ninja Turtle group of frogs.
Yeah, there was Bonafrog. There was the Battletoads.
It was Napoleon,
Bonafrog,
like
and then there. Yeah. I think so.
They were named after dictators.
Yes, conquerors and dictators.
Yeah, conquerors. That's more.
And then they're not to be confused with the Battletoads.
Correct.
However, 3 Battletoads, 3 frogmen. We might be onto something here. Were they wearing Ray-Bans and Oakleys? That we don't know.
Did they know karate?
Did they know? Did they have an impossible jet ski mission where you could not get past a certain level without getting a game genie and breaking the code of the game?
Deep cut.
Yeah.
Up,
down, left, right, B, A, B. No, that probably wasn't a Capcom.
Code. Yeah. So anyway, 2 weeks later on St. Patrick's Day, 1972, Officer Matthews, the guy who went to investigate with Officer Shockey.
Sure, the other guy.
He claimed to have his own encounter with the frog monster. Now, his story, things get a little controversial. But his story goes that he was patrolling the outskirts of town, maybe looking for some drunk drivers to bust, when he saw something hunched up in the middle of the road. Thinking he was approaching a dead animal, Officer Matthews got out of the patrol car and watched in startlement as the presumed roadkill rose to 2 feet and hobbled across the road, lifted a leg over a guardrail, always keeping an eye on the officer. And this is when things get very controversial along with the cryptid community.
The police officer's pants were unbuttoned.
Wait a minute.
No, okay, sorry. I jumped the gun.
No, it's true. So this is where the whole Frogman thing begins to get shaky.
Okay.
It just starts now to become questionable.
Yes, the Roman candle and the claw marks.
It wasn't a Roman candle, it was a magic wand. Now, in his report, Matthews said that at this point, he fired at the creature, missed, and watched as the Frogman scattered away into the darkness. Years later, he shot at it.
An unarmed
Frogman. Yes, but years later, after a lifetime of being a subject of small-town folklore celebrity and cryptozoologists interviewing him about the Frogman, Mark Matthews finally said, you know what, I'm done talking about the Frogman. What I actually encountered and killed was a large iguana that had just gotten too big to be a pet. So he's like, there was no frog monster. This contradicts years of eyewitness testimony between him and Shockey.
But would explain the claw marks. Because I was thinking to myself, frogs don't have claws.
I know, it's a little weird. Do they have... I always picture them with, like, circular tip fingers, not claw fingers.
Suction cuppy.
Suction cuppy, exactly. That's the word for it. Now, when asked why Mark Matthews would change his story after decades, 40 investigator Roy Schaffner told Weird Ohio in 2001, why after all these years is Matthews debunking the story? I'm not sure. Could be a number of reasons, but both officers told us that it resembled the sketch in 1976. Why would they show us a composite drawing of this creature back in 1976 and tell us that it looked like the drawing? I lived in Loveland for about 5 years, and the story is still circulating with many variations. Just maybe Matthews is tired of hearing the story and all the variations. It's possible. But these variations, these stories, they go back actually hundreds of years. The Shawnee told stories of a water spirit or demon that lived along the Little Miami River called the Shanahawk. And legend says the native people drove the frog-like demon away. And it wasn't until white man came and conquered that the frog monster started to creep back from whence it came and haunt the populace once more.
So, it was the white man's fault.
It's always a white man's fault. You know this. Okay.
Is what I can take away from this story.
Well, I'm just saying that the legends went back to before Loveland even existed.
Interesting.
There was a nature spirit there called the Shanahawk. Where does this leave us today? Man? Frog? Demon? Myth? Pokemon? Perhaps we'll never know. But if we've learned anything on Bigfoot Collectors Club, it's that legends may fade, but monsters never truly disappear forever.
I am not going to be able to sleep tonight.
Joe, we have a question for all our guests after hearing these tales of high strangeness.
Yeah.
What the hell was that?
Dude, I mean, yeah, why did they...
I don't know.
Why did he change his story?
I don't know. Maybe he wanted a little...
a giant iguana? How does a giant iguana... It snows in Ohio.
Exactly. This is why skeptics are like, wait a minute, because he also said the roads were icy. How was a iguana surviving in the bitter fucking cold in the middle of March in Ohio?
Was it a furry iguana?
No. That's something I'll show you
that
later.
That exists, right? Yeah. It's a real thing, isn't it?
No, yeah, it's kind of weird. And then also, like, obviously reptiles they're cold-blooded. They can't really, scientifically speaking, they can't run around on two legs unless they're warm-blooded not mammals, or at least creatures. But we get these reports. There's the Lizard Man of Skateboard Swamp. There's the Loveland Frogman. And in Indiana, around the same time that the businessman saw these three, there was a woman that claimed to have been attacked by some sort of frogman-like creature in a river, in a lake she was swimming in, it was like 200 miles away in Indiana. And she had like a three-pronged, like almost like rash or burn mark on her ankle. So we have in the Midwest these reports of these like reptilian-like bipedal creatures walking around. Now, obviously, the Loveland Frogman is a little thin. It's a little thin. We don't have a ton of eyewitnesses, but I got to say, hoax or not, it's really fun that we have that photo most recently from 2016. That's only 2 summers ago.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one as far as conspiracy photos go.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
It's a good one. And he does. He looks like a sleazebag. I think that's the perfect way to describe it. So I don't know. What do you think? Are people just seeing... What could they be seeing if it's not a frogman?
Well, I guess the question is, are these people that are so starved for attention that they're going to create that story?
Maybe.
Or did they see some sort of animal that, like, I don't know how you get a bear that's... like a shaved bear,
right?
Shorn
Maybe mangy
bear
that has some
something,
weird.
but it's a frog, so it's reptilian. Is
that
that
doesn't look like a bear to me? That's another illustration.
It's like the little singing frog from Looney Tunes.
Yeah, totally.
No, or is it a giant snake? But then if it's icy, what is a reptile doing out icy?
I know.
So then it was a snowstorm. I couldn't see clearly.
And then what's the wand in the businessman story? This is why a lot of people think that these might be extraterrestrial creatures.
Well, also, like, I mean, and I guess it's the 1950s, so, like, a sniper Gila suit was probably not in public circulation.
Right.
So, a guy in a Gila
like
suit
an actual
or a camo
like,
suit.
Navy frogman.
Something. Yeah, or somebody, I don't know, like, was somebody swimming or ice fishing and had on a wetsuit or something, and lighting off fireworks? I don't know what.
I know. It's really,
going
really
on
weird.
With that. Yeah, and also, but I would lean towards something like that, like the person that wanted attention with the Loch Ness Monster photo.
Right. But now these are 2 police officers, though. What do they gain from saying that they saw a cryptid? Because that they got made fun of for this shit.
Sure. I mean, was it somebody that was drunk? I don't know.
I mean, that's
maybe you're
it's
drunk
Ohio,
on the job
1976.
back in the day.
Yeah. It was St. Patrick's Day, and they were policemen. I don't want to generalize here.
That's not. But yeah, I mean, maybe it was something like that. They thought they saw something. What was it, and I'm going to describe it to you. And I mean, I think it's crazy that you have maybe a drunken police officer firing shots into the woods
at something he has not
something
identified.
On 2 legs.
Yeah, I know, right?
That's pretty wild,
guys.
Man.
This has been a problem for a long time.
Jeez.
All right. Well, perhaps we'll never know. Riley, what's your takeaway from the Loveland Frogman?
Well, I think it maybe is one of those stories that got blown out of proportion.
Right.
I think I'm going with drunken policeman on this one.
Right.
It is maybe one of the best things to come out of the Pokemon Go phenomenon.
I agree.
I will say
right.
that.
Not a lot of great has come from it. And I'm not kidding. People died playing that game.
No, I know.
There's like a Pokemon death count that I last saw.
I just want to know if the kid found Pikachu.
He never found Pikachu.
No.
Actually, he probably did if he went to great lengths to go down to a lake to go capture some.
Is that yeah?
We'll have to get Sam Jacobs on the show. Maybe we can contact that kid and get him on the show and interview
hunt him down.
about-
But I like that, like
Pokemon.
yeah, local legends are being unearthed because of Pokemon.
Yeah,
Go.
exactly.
Because I mean, it's like there should be. It's like what would have been great, or would have been the cherry on top of the story of the black sarcophagus.
Yes,
Would have been some kids playing Pokemon Go found an this ancient this tomb of ancient evil.
Yeah. Well, they did say that one of the good things about the game is it actually got people out of their house.
And like hit by cars.
Yeah, hit by
Hit
dump
by a
trucks.
car.
Yeah.
Falling off cliffs. Sorry, people did actually die. I don't mean to make light of that. Anyway.
No, sorry.
Well,
Yeah,
I don't know. I think we got to put Frogman in the probably unlikely category, but boy, is it fun.
Yeah, it's a good fun.
It's a good one.
But I like that it mixes up the legends. I've never
Yeah.
really heard of frogmen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I've heard
Oh, man.
of the Bigfoots and the hairy
Yeah.
creatures, the Yeti type
Yeah.
primitive
Dogmen. Have you heard
Yeah.
about the Dogmen?
Well, I mean,
mean-
hey.
Come on.
Knew him.
Yeah. Wait.
Wait, is that
No,
Wait,
no,
no.
it's hardly new.
Hardly-
Wait.
something like
Oh, well.
that? Yeah.
Joe, what would you, before we go, what would you like to plug? Anything coming up?
What I like to plug, go to death-saves.com.
Great.
You can also check out Instagram and Twitter at deathsaves.
Oh, the Death Saves Instagram, I did want to say, is really, really, really fun.
Cool.
It's really cool. It's like all these like different mixed genres. There's like Choose Your Own Adventure and
Yeah.
like old movie posters with the Death Save. It's really fun. I really
So
enjoy
I have my design partner, Damian Higgins, a.k.a. the Diesel Boy, who, going back to Pittsburgh lore, he was a student at Pitt while also moonlighting as one of the pioneers of the drum and bass movement. So he's a huge drum and bass DJ who's
Cool.
still out there crushing it, and is a purveyor of all things heavy metal and old school Dungeons and Dragons. So he was the perfect person to bring into the fold when I was conceptualizing
That's awesome.
Death Saves. And so he runs the Instagram, and he is responsible, great graphic designer also, and he's responsible. We take old pop, pulp, horror, fantasy book covers, album covers, and twist them into
It's really fun. I
yeah,
enjoy
fun
it.
stuff. So go check it
Yeah,
out.
yeah, I
it's
think all of
it's a
our-
lot of fun.
Our
yeah.
listeners will really like that. That's great.
Yeah.
Any film, TV stuff coming up?
Yeah, I'm in post-production right now for this film that I starred in and am producing.
Oh, that's right. You were shooting this late spring, early summer, weren't you?
Last year
Okay.
in the Bronx.
Oh, okay.
We shot
Maybe
this
this
in
is
the
a different
Bronx.
thing.
And that it's called Stano, and that's going to drop at some point either late this year or early next year.
Cool.
And I just recorded a radio teleplay,
Oh, cool.
Oh, cool.
like episodic
yeah.
radio play called Angel of Vine, where I play a noir detective in
Nice.
1950s who was on the trail of a serial killer. And the story is unfolded because my granddaughter in the present day finds a box full of tapes that I had recorded. I had a recorder going while I was
that's cool.
investigating this
That sounds
crime.
awesome.
And there are some other amazing characters played by Alfred Molina,
Oh, wow.
Dr. Octopus, which is
Yeah,
great
yeah,
because
yeah,
we just
yeah.
told Spider-Man stories
Yeah.
about Sam Raimi, which was great. And Alan Tudyk
Oh, love Alan
is
Tudyk.
also
Yeah.
plays a character, as well as, if people like Critical Role or the Dungeons and Dragons web series, Matthew Mercer, Travis Willingham, they play characters in
Oh,
it. You'll hear their
cool.
voices in there.
And is this
well.
going to be a podcast series or is it going to be actual radio?
So it's going to be it'll be launched or teased probably like NPR,
Oh, great.
and then from there you can go and get the entire
Awesome.
radio
that's
play,
great,
which
man.
is like you can listen to it in your car. It's great. It's like this really compelling, audio play, for people who like audiobooks. Except
I
you get
think
actors
we
playing
have
these
a lot of
characters.
them listening
yeah,
to this
exactly,
right now.
Exactly.
They're into podcasts.
So that'll be really fun. So I'll figure out, I'll find out where that's gonna
Awesome,
land. It's
dude.
called Angel of Vine.
Okay.
And that's great. And people can go on my Instagram page and check out pictures of me with
which is
Alfred and
Joe
Alan.
Manganiello. What's your
Yeah, Joe
At Joe
Manganiello.
Manganiello. Great.
MANGANI.
I'm one of the few people that know how to
ELLO.
pronounce your last
You
name.
do. I know. It's amazing.
It's like McMillian when people and then they go Manganiello. I'm like, no, it's Manganiello. Could you just? I understand, buddy.
Thanks, man.
Riley, anything to plug?
Yeah, the studio has an Instagram now.
Oh,
It's,
really?
It's the studio's called Space Camp. By the way, we finally landed on a
That's
name.
I keep seeing that pop up. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah,
like,
that's
follow
us.
that.
That's a great name.
Thank you.
That's
Great
great. I
name.
love the logo.
Thank you.
Great name.
So yeah, it's at Space Camp Recorders if you want to follow the goings on of the studio with the Collectors Club and beyond. We do all sorts of stuff in here, so you can check that out.
Fantastic. I'm on showing up on a couple other podcasts this week. The Storycraft podcast with Bryce. Actually, we talk a lot about Bigfoot Collectors Club, kind of how this show came to be, and that's hosted by Craig Rasmussen. That should be up by the time you're listening to this. And then also our buddy W. Dave Keith has a new episode of Taco the Town, which I do another Michael Takes on Taco Bell review on that. So make sure you listen to that.
I was in a Taco Bell commercial
Were you really?
directed by the Russo brothers
Whoa.
about 12 years ago.
Talk about people who are just getting their start. Go on to great things.
I always knew you had it in you. Yeah, it was for the Tortada.
Oh wow! Oh right, I remember the tortilla.
Do you
I don't
remember that?
eat. I didn't eat it.
Yeah.
I've been doing. My buddy's been trying to get me to try. I don't eat fast food regular, obviously, but I mean,
Well, you're not going to get that Conan body
no,
eating all that fast food, Michael.
we'll see about that. But yeah, so
But once you get it, you can eat all the Taco Bell you
Once you're
want.
Conan,
Yeah, exactly.
just-
Once you get it.
Once you,
Chalupas?
then I don't have to worry about it ever again. But I've been like once a month or so, of every few weeks, going out and trying different menu items to review for David's podcast. And I told him this time, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to, but I can't do it anymore. It's really
It's like
ruining my
Morgan
life.
Spurlock, but like 0.01%.
Yeah.
of
It's
Morgan
not that bad.
Spurlock. Yeah. It's like, nah.
Anyway, and also that's a really fun show, so make sure check it out. Taco the Town with W. Dave Keith. All right, Joe, thank you so much for being on the show. We really appreciate it. You're the best. This is
Mike-
so fun. We're so happy about Death Saves.
Thanks, man. Any excuse to hang out.
I love it,
And
dude.
if people want to know more about Death Saves, go watch. I did The Late Show with Stephen Colbert.
Oh, right.
And if people want to know what it's all about, you can go see like the most insider baseball conversation
You
you've
guys
ever
got-
seen about Dungeons and Dragons. No apologies, no pandering.
So fun.
Awesome.
So go YouTube that.
I'll put the link up to
Great.
that in the show notes.
Yeah,
for
that
sure. I'll
was
find
that
it.
was very fun.
Oh, that's great. Oh, and that also reminds me, my comic book adventure van comes out a week from today, Wednesday, August 29th. Joe's holding a copy right here. And if you'd like it, stop by your comic shop, ask for Adventure Van. They can order it for you. And hopefully they'll have it in stock for you next Monday. It's small press. It's a real indie project, so we need all the help we can get to get it into readers' hands. So thank you so much. Buy it. All right, guys. Until next time, this is Michael McMillan, Riley Bray, Joe Manganiello. You're listening to Bigfoot Collectors Club. We love you. Goodbye. Kisses.
Bigfoot Collectors Club is produced by Riley Bray. Our theme song is Come Alone by Sun Eaters, courtesy of Lotus Pool Records. If you like the show, please rate and review us on iTunes. It really helps get the podcast to more listeners. To support the show, check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/Bigfoot Collectors Club and unlock multiple reward episodes every month.